Okay, welcome all of you to the High Vibe International Web Session this Sunday evening, brought to you by Swadeshi Sangha. We are based in Bengaluru and Nationalist Kolkata, West Bengal, Bangla, Aabar, Boston, USA, and Sriti or Chetona, New Jersey, USA. I am Shakuntala Iyer, General Secretary of Swadeshi Sangha based in Bengaluru. I am an entrepreneur by habit, but nationalist by attitude. This today's program is going to be moderated by me, and Himadrida will handle the entire session event. The title of today reads like this: Nationalist Vision, Bengal 2021. If you carefully observe, there's a colon in between Nationalist Vision and Bengal 2021. You may aptly read the rest in your mind. Nationalism is a whole life thought, not limited to the year 2021. What we try meaning is our awakening process for the immediate coming year 2021. We Swadeshi Sangha, the meaning, society of or team of people engaging in activities pertaining to the Swadesh, can any which way mean anything not less than volunteers engaging in promoting nationalism. We as a global thought initiative start our activities locally. A few steps of unifying activities under the title of environment, health, education, and culture are brought out at micro scale, ensuring continuous engagement with communities of different origin, but are together geographically, respecting one another, and live as part of committed citizens to the larger cause of nationalism. Founded by our dear Himadri Das, who, though being a professional information technology, is busy at least 18 hours a day, spends his personal time entirely for the national cause. I just want to give a small parichay of Himadri Das. You may know, but still, for the sake of today's event. Hailing from the famous Nabadi Brahmo family of Kolkata, his great-grandfather and grandfather were Pracharak of Brahma Samaj and was closely associated with the family of Keshav Chandra Sen. We South Indians have the way of saying Keshav as Keshav, sorry for that. On the other hand, they were closely associated with the Ramakrishna Mission and Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh as well. Sri Himadri Das is an alumnus of Asansol Ramakrishna Mission School, an electrical and communication engineer, completed his master's from BITS Pilani and an MBA from Coventry University, UK. He is an IT professional and working as a senior executive in a famous MNC. We are proud of his dedication and contribution to the nation through various platforms, which you probably would know. Going forward, we would like to start the session with the lighting of the lamp. If you are ready, can I request Gautam Sen ji, Swapan Dasgupta ji, and Shri Kanchan Banerjee and Himadri Das to light the lamps wherever you are and start the prayer for Bharat Mata. Please, let's start the program.
বঙ্গ আমার জননী আমার ধত্রী আমার আমাকে কেন গো মাতো শুষ্ক নয়ন কেন গো মাতো রুক্ষ কেশ কেন গো মাতো ধুলায় আসন কেন গো মাতো মলিন উঠে সপ্ত কোটি সন্তান যে ডাকি উঠেছে আমার দেশ কিসের দুঃখ কিসের দৈন্য কিসের লজ্জা কিসের কেশ সপ্ত কোটি মিলিত কাঞ্চি থাকে যখন আমার দেশ যেখানে বদ্ধ আর করিল ভক্তদান আইতে জড়িয়ে অর্ধ জগৎ ভক্তি প্রদত্ত চরণিয়া অশোক যাহা তিথি ছাইল গন্ধার হতে জল বিশেষ তুইটি নামা কথা দিয়ে চলন ভাবি নামা কথা দিয়েছে কিসের দুঃখ কিসের কইল কিসের লজ্জা কিসের সপ্ত কোটি মিলিত কান্তি রাখতে যখন আমার দিন একদা জনক কি জয় স্মরণে আলায় নৌকা করিল জয় একদা জানানো হইল ভূমিল ভারত সাগরময় সনাতন জয় দিন কত গঙ্গা পানি কাটিল সন্দেশ তার কি নাই দুলায় আসলে তার কি নাই চিহ্ন দেশ কিসের দুঃখ কিসের দৈন্য কিসের লজ্জা কিসের বেশ সপ্ত কোটি মিলিত
আমার ইয়েটা দিয়ে একটু এই মাস্কটা
উঠিল দেখালি
তাড়াতাড়ি আমারটা মাছটা দিয়ে যা।
নিময় কণ্ঠে মধুরতার ন্যায়ের বিধান দিল চণ্ডীদাস কাহিল গান যুদ্ধ করিল প্রতাপাদিত্য তুই কিনা সেই ধন্য দেশ ধন্য আমরা যদিও শিরোই থাকবে না ভক্ত নেই কিসের দুঃখ কিসের দৈন্য কিসের লজ্জা কিসের কেশ সপ্ত কণ্ঠিত কণ্ঠে তাকে যখন আমার দেশ যদিও মাতর দিব্য আলো ঘিরিয়াছে আধার ঘর কেটে যাবে মেঘ নবীন গরিমা গরিমা মিটিবে তারপর আমরা বোঝাবো মা তোর কানে মানুষ আমরা নই তুমি দেবী আমার সাধনা আমার ধর্ম আমার দেশ কিসের দুঃখ কিসের দৈন্য কিসের লজ্জা কিসের কি সপ্ত কোটি মিলিত কণ্ঠে থাকে যখন আমার দেশ।
Thank you, Madhurima ji. Though I don't understand Bangla completely as a language, I do understand what you mean because it's finally to the mother, and we all pray the same way. Bless us, keep us going in whatever is negatives that we are in today. Now I call upon Kanchan Banerjee ji primarily to introduce and set the context of this particular webinar today. As all of you know, most of them told me that Kanchana is considered to be Shyam Prakash Mukherjee in the USA for uniting in the USA for the nationalistic cause. Welcoming him to preset the context of this situation today for the webinar. I would like to give a small introduction, though it's very large. He told me to keep it very simple and short. Let me just give you his introduction. Kanchanda is a BSc in biology and an MSc in computer science from Boston University, USA. He is currently the co-founder and managing director of Boston Center for Excellence for Health and Human Development. And he is the chairman of New England International Indian American Chamber of Commerce. This is about his profession, but the marvelous thing he has done parallelly is from his childhood founded organizations and platforms which will unite millions of Indians across the globe. A few minutes back, I was talking to him and told him, today, due to Corona, thanks to Corona, we are on the web. We are able to exercise and feel this Vatsudhaiva Kutumbakam across the globe. Thanks to all those who have made it happen, especially to Kanchanda, who has taken initiative to bring all of us together in terms of real meaning of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Kanchanda, kindly set the pretext of today's WebEx seminar. Thank you. Namaskar.
Shakuntalaji, thank you for this kind introduction, and I don't deserve all this. Taking some of his name is not fair probably, but we are all Chevaks of Bharat Mata. That's all I can say. And I will say a few words. We will save time to listen to our honored guest today. I speak, but I will make some quick points. First of all, Himadrida, great organizer. He has been working tirelessly to this event. Every week he's doing something or the other, so thank you. And Manya Sri Swapan Dasgupta and Gautam Sen, thank you for joining us in a very short notice. And I'm sure the people who are participating from all over the world will learn a lot from both of you, and they will be able to interact with you. Again, on behalf of the sponsoring organizations, including Swadeshi Sangha in Bengaluru, Jatiyotavadi Kolkata, Bangla, Aabar, and Sriti, Chetona, we welcome all the viewers from over a dozen countries. As you all know, Bengal was a leading state in 1947 in economy, in industry, in education, and many other fields. And appears that today Bengal is on cusp. In literal sense, it seems like there's no point of return. West Bengal is in extremely great shape today, whether it's in economics, whether it's in education, industry, agriculture, health, and culture itself. Bengali culture is being destroyed with a plan way, and it's a grave danger for culture of Bengal and language of Bengal. Um, on the other hand, uh, there is a very difficult situation with the rapid demographic changes in Bengal as well, and fast rise of Islamic fundamentalism. So the residents of West Bengal and Pravachis outside of Bengal and Bharat, we all are concerned, and we would like to contribute to bring about short-term and long-term changes. And just a couple of words about Bangla Aabar. We borrowed it from Bharat Aabar, from Atul Prasad Sang. Bengal again need to rise and position itself among the states and among the countries back to its own heritage and prosperity. And that's why Bangla Aabar was formed by a few of our members. They are all, some of them are here online, and many of them are not. And then Sriti Chetona is another organization we started to create a virtual space for sort of a museum and space to remember um, and celebrate our heritage and culture, and also to educate next generation of people in India and outside what has happened to Bengal, both Bengal East and West, and currently Bangladesh. What is happening today to Bengali heritage. So with that, uh, we have two eminent personalities, Padma Shri Dr. Swapan Dasgupta from Delhi and Professor Dr. Gautam Sen from London. Let us welcome and listen to their expert views and their plans on how to deal with these burning issues and take Bengal out of this quagmire we are in today. No.
And I don't think I need to introduce Dr. Gautam Sen, because we all know that he was the chief economic thought and person behind ex-Prime Minister Vajpayee ji, and he had sufficient contribution in terms of the grassroots level thinking for Indians. And as I know, probably we have, we don't know, we want you to be in India, but still, we don't know how to bring you back to India. But still, from this point of view, we would like to connect to you and listen to you. Today we have a lot of people across the globe from different geographical locations. People are watching us. Please give your leading thoughts to us on the topic today. Thank you so much.
Namaskar, thank you for inviting me. Let me suggest that you've exaggerated my role a little bit in the scheme of things. And though I am abroad, my heart has always been in the same place.
Yes.
And of course, I'm in India 6, 7, 8 times a year. But from February this year, this has no longer been feasible. It's a source of much sadness for me. I speak in a mixture of Bengali and English, and I will try to keep to my allotted time. পশ্চিমবঙ্গের অবস্থা শোচনীয়. The situation in West Bengal is very serious, and I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I would like to say that my fellow Bengalis have a great love for Hilsa fish, red yogurt, and listening to Tagore songs. And I'm afraid this makes them a little bit complacent. In Bengali, we would say, একটু অন্য মনস্ক হয়ে যান তারা, যে আমাদের অবস্থা এত খারাপ, things are so bad. I would say that this is on 3 levels. The situation needs to be looked at. Sanskritic, Rajnaitik, Orthonoitik. That's cultural, political, and economic. If in 2014, Narendra Modi had not won the election and changed the course of Indian history, we would have today been in dire climactic trouble. I always say, after Modi ji won the election, I had no further expectations from him. Everything else was a bonus, because he saved us in May 2014. West Bengal is in this kind of precipice today. What happens in 2021 will be of enormous significance, আমার ধারণা এইটা ইলেকশন আমাদের যেটা খুব প্রয়োজন বিজেপি পার্টি হিসাবে, যেটা খুব প্রয়োজন। and I would say, আমি বলবো without causing embarrassment, if anybody in modern Indian history can pull this off, it's a person who won 18 out of 42 seats, parliamentary seat in West Bengal, and inducted Sri Swapan Dasgupta into what I call Rangbhumi, to the battlefield. It's Modi ji can pull it off. Now, what are we facing? You know, this is the replay of 46-47 which has been unfolding. এই শুরু করেছিলেন মোহাম্মদ আলী জিন্না শুরুবর্তী, যে পশ্চিমবঙ্গ will be part of East Pakistan. It wouldn't have been East Pakistan. Actually, it would have been Bengal, because it would have been so এত বড় হয়ে যেত। সেই চেষ্টাটা যেটা আটকে দেওয়া হলো, রামপ্রসাদ মুখার্জি, এনসি চ্যাটার্জি, গোপাল পাঠা মিলে, that they stop this. This is the destiny which is unfolding. This nightmare for us and dream for Jinnah has been unfolding. মাঝে মাঝে আমার মনে হয় আমরা কি ভারতবর্ষের নাগরিক? Are we citizens of India, which I happen to be when I'm in Bengal? This state in many ways is almost behaving as if they are not part of India. I was shocked most of all by this episode, যেটা আমরা সবাই চোখের সামনে দেখলাম, when the officials came to monitor COVID-এর দুরবস্থা, the progress of COVID in West Bengal. They were treated like convicted criminals. They were extended no help. Every hindrance, কত রকম অসুবিধা বাধা দেওয়া হয়েছিল ওদের পথে, extraordinary. তারপর দেখি something which has never happened in Bengal. You know, I cannot recall in living memory the profound insulting behavior towards the governor of West Bengal. This seems to be, you know, really lacking in dignity. We may disagree with the governor. We may say the governor is working on behalf of Central, which does happen. All of these things, but on a personal level, the insult to the governor is insult to the dignity of the very republic. আমাদের পুরো রিপাবলিকের একটা অপমান করা হলো। And I saw what happened to him in Jadavpur University, of which he is the vice chancellor. The way he has been treated, and then others who merely sought to go and put their view. Apun had the same experience in Santiniketan, Babul Supriyo, and other leaders. This is beyond the pale. এত সহ্য করা যায় না। Even in the worst of CPM, this was never so blatant. What is the political problem in this? রাজনৈতিক সমস্যা হচ্ছে অরাজকতা, lawlessness. What we have is lawlessness. The lawlessness which places political murder in Bengal at a level which makes Bengal the worst state in the Indian Union. সারা ভারতবর্ষের মধ্যে সবচেয়ে বেশি খুন, পলিটিক্যাল খুন হয়, রাজনৈতিক খুন হয় পশ্চিমবঙ্গে। সেটা আমাদের কাউকে আবার জানাবার দরকার নেই, আমরা সবাই জানি। তারপর নানা রকমের গায়ের জোরে গুন্ডাগার্দি হয় পশ্চিমবঙ্গে। সামান্য একটা ব্যাপার, আমার নিজের ব্যক্তিগত অভিজ্ঞতা, নিউ টাউনে আমার বন্ধু বাড়ি তৈরি করার চেষ্টা করছিল। টিএমসির গুন্ডারা এসে বল সবকিছু আমাদের কাছ থেকে কিনতে হবে। আমি জিজ্ঞাসা করলাম এটা কি আশ্চর্য, ইটস ভেরি স্ট্রেঞ্জ that if you build a house you have to buy all the supplies from the TMC party workers. But no, this is not. They will give you very poor quality, high cost materials. This is Bengal today. And then who has forgotten the Panchayat elections of 2018? 34% of the seats were won uncontested because it was not possible for there to be democratic participation. কাউকে যোগদান করতে দেওয়া হয়নি। পঞ্চায়েত ইলেকশনে 34% এরাই জোর করে দখল করে বসেছিল। এটা সহ্য করা যায় না, এটা আমরা সহ্য করে নিয়েছি। সেই জন্য 221-এ আমরা এটা সবকিছু বদলাবো। তারপরে দেখুন 213-র পরে দুটো কত বড় স্ক্যান্ডাল, যেটা তবে শেষ পর্যায়ে এখনো পৌঁছানি। We haven't reached the final stage of the Sharada scam, more than 10,000 crores. And from ordinary সাধারণ লোকের কাছ থেকে এটা চুরি করা হয়। You know, I used to visit just after that, and a driver who used to pick me up from a friend's house said, দেখুন দাদা, আমাকে বলেছিল সব পয়সা আমি ওখানে জমা দিয়ে দিয়েছিলাম। This driver said, I put all my life savings of 10,000 rupees in this. This Sharada scam really hurt these kinds of ordinary people. No comeback yet. Rose Valley scam was even bigger. Almost 18,000 crores was stolen in this chit fund scam. Together, these two chit fund scams are only 1/3 less than the total FDI entering Bengal from 2000, from the year 2000, which was about $3.6 billion. So this 27,000 crores comes quite close to that. This is the Bengal we have to change. আরো একটা কথা বলা দরকার, অনেক কিছু ক্রাইম কিন্তু রেকর্ড হচ্ছে না। আমি কলকাতায় প্রায় যাই, নানা রকম কুকর্ম পুলিশ রেকর্ডে যায় না। People do not go to the police to report crime because they know the police will not act if they already know the individuals involved have party political connections and this is the ruling party. Even a bigger issue that we need to be mindful of, the Chief Minister has said all illegal immigrants in West Bengal are Indian citizens. Publicly she has announced. And now the Prime Minister of Bangladesh has complained to the Prime Minister of India that the Shraddha scam money was used to try and organize her assassination. This is when the Prime Minister was compelled to swing into action. It is an extraordinary outcome that money was being raised by terrorist organizations. Now they now regard West Bengal as home base. Porshimanga তাদের নিজস্ব হয়ে গিয়েছে. They can hide better in West Bengal than Bangladesh. How much worse can this be? এর থেকে কত দূরে আমরা আর করব? This is the political situation in West Bengal which has to change. সংস্কৃতি দেখুন, অনেক কিছু শুনছি, পড়ছি, এডুকেশন মিনিস্টার বলছে কত কি আমাদের এস্টাবলিশমেন্ট হয়েছে। Let me just read to you one statement from Pranab Mukherjee, in which he says, improve quality of education, not increase number of institutions. There has been a significant number of increases in the higher education institutions of West Bengal, but the quality is abysmal. And at another level, 25% of class 8 students fail to reach textbooks of class 2 books. Class 2 books এরা পড়তে পারে না, class 8 এর ছাত্ররা class 2 এর বই পড়তে পারে না, 1/4. What more do you need to say? In rural Bengal, infrastructure is in very poor condition. Blackboards, class 2 এর বই, লাইব্রেরি, ল্যাবরেটরি এগুলো কিচ্ছু নেই প্রায় বলতে। এদিকে সরকার ঠিক করেছে 500 কোটি টাকা দিয়ে সব রিপেন্টিং করা হবে সব বিল্ডিং। They're going to repaint all the buildings with 500 crores. This is the kind of governance West Bengal is experiencing. This is the kind of governance. And then, what I referred to earlier, watching these gundas attack anybody who enters the university, particularly Jadavpur University. I have to also say I have to smile. Though I am a great admirer of the poetry of Kazi Nazrul Islam, we grew up reading his rebellious poems of the independence era. Now in the discussions I hear, he is our greatest ever poet, not Michael Madhusudhan Dutt or Rabindranath Tagore. This is how we are moving. This is our culture. Look at any film from West Bengal. I actually was watching one from 1969 even. The villain, the khuni, the rapist, he's got Rudrakshar Mala. They have got a religious symbol of Tilak Pure. Every single film, absolute trash, is being manufactured to malign আমাদের ধর্ম, আমাদের সংস্কৃতি. We have never had a filmmaker after Satyajit Ray. All of this is of very poor quality and hostile to the Indian Union and hostile to our past. Let me say a little bit about the economy. I have to laugh when I hear the finance minister quoting figures of 16% growth in 2018-19. In economics, these are nominal figures. Growth is not 16%. If you discount for inflation, it falls to 9%. If you take the average growth rate of 2011, it is between 5 and 7%. Again, the real growth rate figures, not the nominal ones, which are not adjusted for inflation. This is West Bengal. তারপরে দেখা যাচ্ছে এই যে গ্রোথটা হচ্ছে 5-7, 218-তে 8 হয়েছে 8%। এই গ্রোথটা একটু ভালো করে দেখা দরকার, উচিত। 117টা আইটি সেন্টার হয়েছে, তাতে মাত্র 3000 এমপ্লয়িজ, there are only 3000 employees. This kind of service sector growth, Westbengal growth is service sector, generates value but not employment. Employment will only come in West Bengal and the rest of India, UP, Bihar, anywhere, as the Prime Minister has been rightly saying and his advisors have been saying, from a surge in manufacturing. Manufacturing requires large establishments, unions, and social peace. This is not yet there in Bengal. If there is social peace and less trade activity, it's because industry has simply vanished. So people don't yet have the courage to begin enterprise in Bengal because of its lawlessness. And finally, healthcare. The state of healthcare is very poor, shortage of doctors, shortage of equipment, doctors on strike, and though the budget recently went up for all other departments by 73%, for healthcare it went up only 56%. আমি মানতে রাজি, হেলথের সমস্যা পুরনো সমস্যা, this is an old problem, but you have to make a start somewhere, because healthcare is the most important single issue for the poor, because if the poor fall ill, it derails them for the next decade and more. So healthcare, proper diagnostic healthcare, all of this has to be provided, and it is failing. The unions are rampant, the party political vote is rampant, and there is huge leakage. অনেক জোট চুরি হয় এইসব জায়গায়, অনেক জোট চুরি হয়। আমার খুব মনে হয় যে 221-এ মোদিদের সাহায্য নিয়ে পশ্চিমবঙ্গে একটা বদলাও আসার সম্ভাবনা আছে। পশ্চিমবঙ্গ will try to rediscover itself, not just an economy and with political peace, but also as a culture, the culture of which we could once have been very proud, which has deteriorated to the level where there is nothing left. Nothing. As I said, the last Mahapurush great Bengali was Satyajit Ray. I can't say anybody else since. Where has it brought us? I also fear, ভয় করি যে পশ্চিমবঙ্গ আমরা আলাদা না হয়ে যায় ভারতবর্ষ থেকে, আলাদা না হয়ে যায়। এই ভয় তো দেখাচ্ছে, এখন অনেক রকমের মুভমেন্ট দেখছি যে আমরা ভূমিপুত্র হেন তেন, যেটা পশ্চিমবঙ্গে আগে কখনো হয়নি। আমরা বাঙালিরা কখনো মনে করিনি যে অন্য স্টেটের লোকেরা আমাদের পর, আমরা কখনো মনে করিনি যে আমরা ভারতবর্ষী নাগরিক নই। And finally I will say now I'm so ashamed, আমি এত লজ্জা পাই তখন আমার লোকে জিজ্ঞেস করে আপনি কোথাকার, আমি বলি আমি ভারতবর্ষী, I'm an Indian. I don't have the courage to say I'm a Bengali. I feel so sad and embarrassed. But I'm hoping for change, and I see Swapan is actively involved. I also know that there are other people involved in this who are very capable, and hopefully this election will be the turning point. আশা করি তখন আমাদের আবার একটা নতুন জিত শুরু হবে। থ্যাংক ইউ, ধন্যবাদ। আমার 15 মিনিট আমি নিয়ে নিয়েছি, সো আই স্টপ নাও। ধন্যবাদ।
Gautamji, I have no words to say because we have one side seeing West Bengal and the other side we have Kerala, which is almost very close to what you are talking. We are between we call it catastrophe, cultural chaos, and the impact of which probably is a very ugly, a very ugly. I would like her to introduce Dr. Swapan Dasgupta. Though the introduction is not needed, but we all know him. But still, this is as a formality. Shubhangi is a young, energetic, dedicated nationalist, the next generation soldier of Bharat Mata, who is a Karyakarta of Swadeshi Sangha. Shubhangi, take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Swapan Dasgupta to the seminar today. Please go ahead. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, Ma'am, for giving me this opportunity. I feel very privileged today to introduce such a great personality and renowned distinguished guest. Initially, I wanted to keep you guessing, being an ardent follower and huge fan of the stalwart resilience, mighty full and corruption crusader, savior of Bengal and Bengali Hindus, who is none other than Dr. Swapan Dasgupta. One of the to-do lists of my life is completed today in this young age, which was beyond my imagination, having got this opportunity to introduce you. It's not a lie that I follow your tweets and Facebook status to understand news rather than distorted news by the paid media. Dr. Dasgupta was born on 3rd October 1955 in Kolkata, received his early education at St. Paul's School, Darjeeling, La Martiniere, Calcutta, and St. Stephen's College, Delhi, graduating from the latter in 1975. He thereafter went on to earn his master's and PhD from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London. Sir is a journalist and a presidential nominee to the Rajya Sabha, an influential conservative writer, writing columns espousing Hindu nationalism for leading English dailies. Sir, you were awarded Padma Bhushan for your contribution to literature and education. Looking forward to hear you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to my young friend for those very flattering words. Shakuntala ji,
Thank you.
Kanchan ji, Madrida, and all the members of the Swadeshi Sangha. Now, I don't know, my friend Gautam Sen has been very deft in managing to straddle between two languages. Now, I don't know whether I should, I don't know how successful I will be in managing two. So let me start off to begin with in English. And then maybe towards the end, I'll switch over to a little bit of Bangla. Many years ago, I had once gone to Sri Lanka during the height of the civil war, and I had traveled to Jaffna, which was really the epicenter of the war. And I remember one person asking one gentleman there. I said, "How is Jaffna?" He looked at me and he said, "You know, Jaffna is a very nice place to get out of." Now, that has often struck me as being somewhat relevant in the context of Bengal. Bengal is a place which today, whose economy I call as being determined by the one-way ticket syndrome. People love getting out of Bengal because the opportunities elsewhere in India, not to speak of the world, are so manifold and so much more attractive. And Bengal is so unattractive that even the lure of what Gautam said was the lure of Hilsa, the lure of Mishti Doi, and the lure of the daily bazaar is not sufficient to hold people back. We got a taste of this during this COVID crisis when it was realized that there are some 80 lakhs or so migrant workers. Now, whether they are the term migrant workers, I feel is a bit condescending. But it was a small sample. When I was last in Bangalore, I was told that there are some 12 lakh Bengali speakers in the city. And that in some ways that Bangla is almost the de facto second language of Bengaluru. I don't know whether that's true or not, but I think it's an indication that how from the people who occupy the highest positions in the corporate world, right down to people who act as sort of canteen workers or watchmen, Bengalis take up any position because the alternative of staying at home is so distinctly unattractive. And it's not merely a question of the lack of opportunities which strike people in Bengal. I think what is very, very clear all over it's apparently clear that what we are seeing in Bengal today is a society which has become terribly, terribly vitiated in more respects than we can imagine. On one level, Bengalis are enormously proud of their culture, their heritage, their history, in fact, proud to the point of arrogance. But when it comes to contemporary reality, it's insufficient to say that once upon a time Gopal Krishna Gokhale said that what Bengal thinks today, the rest of India thinks tomorrow. I think we are in a sorry situation where the past looks far more appealing than the present or even the future. Some years ago, maybe 15 years ago, when I used to say that Bengal has slipped down and is probably batting in the second division and now maybe going down to the third, I used to be mocked at. These days, I remember during the 2019 elections when we were giving talks at various points, I used to remind people that in 1947, Bengal was the number 2 state in the whole country. Number 1 was the then Bombay state, Bombay presidency, which later became Gujarat and Bombay, Maharashtra taken together. But Bengal was undeniably the number 2 place. And there was a little tussle between Kolkata and Bombay as to which one has greater precedence. Now, from there to a position where you've slipped down the ranks, not from 2 to 3, not from 3 to 4, but somewhere between, you're struggling between 11 and 12, and probably going down. There will be a time when you'll be overtaken by Rajasthan. You probably have been overtaken by Rajasthan. You've probably been overtaken by Odisha. At one time, people used to mock Odisha for being backward. So it's that constant tale of what I call declinology in Bengal, the unending tale of decline, and you don't know where it's going to come down. How low will you sink? Once upon a time, all this was not very palatable to Bengalis. Today, when you say that, people nod their heads silently because they can experience what is there. Since my school days, I came out of school in 1971. It was the height of the Naxalite troubles. Since those days, I've been hearing the talk about the regeneration of Bengal. It's now 50 years or more since then. And it's still the same talk is continuing. When will it end? This is the question which I think we have to ask ourselves. Because today, any form of creative activity in Bengal has become very, very difficult. Let's start with business. It's not merely a question of what was there at one point, which is of the stereotype of the militant trade unionism. What we witness now is extortion on a most horrific scale. Gautam mentioned the tale of what is happening in Newtown. If you want to get your house repaired, you'll get some local goons coming and say, you must get your material from us. This is a term which has been there called tola baji, which is a constant tale of extortion and illegal cesses which are being taken. And we are reliably told that the trail of the cesses leads right to the top. Do you know that to transport one small truck of potatoes from Hooghly district to the markets of Calcutta, the transporter will have to pay some 5,000 rupees in different points for illegal tolls. This is the situation in Calcutta. This is the situation in West Bengal. No wonder people, the talented Bengalis of the state, find it more appealing and more attractive to go to Mumbai, to go to Chennai, to go to Maharashtra, to go to Bengaluru, or overseas to find a way out. They all dream of the time they can come back to Bengal, but that dream has been going on for a very, very long time. And on top of that, there is the killings. Political arguments are no longer settled in the ballot box. They are no longer settled in debates. They are settled through violence. Since the elections of 2019, there have been more than 130 BJP workers who have been killed. And the latest example of horrific killings is that people are actually hung, including an MLA. He was actually hanged to death. So it's crossed all limits. And people openly say, elections, well, will we be allowed to vote? Or will our vote be cast for us? Someone will vote on our behalf. So this rampant murder of democracy is another problem. Now, to counter this constant trail of misgovernance, the ruling dispensation in Bengal have found two ways. The first is an unending conflict which began during the left years of saying that the center has an attitude which is discriminatory. That everything which the center does is aimed at depriving Bengal. So you had the bizarre situation where, despite the shortcomings of the health sector, the Ayushman Bharat scheme, which is a form of nominal health insurance scheme up to 5 lakhs meant for the poorest people, was denied. Bengal does not operate it. You had the Kisan Samman Nidhi, which is a sort of handouts to farmers, particularly in times of difficulties, and during the COVID times, it would have been a great help. It would have been help to anybody. By now, the Bengal farmers, if they had followed the rest of the country, would have got each of them 12,000 rupees. But not a single penny has come to any of them, because the state government, which is supposed to give the roster, which is supposed to give the list of the farmers, says we will not give it. It's as cussed as that. Yesterday, the state government wrote, we will give this money if it is deposited first into the account of the state government, and the state government will be entrusted to distributing it. In other words, it will never see the light of day. Just as what happened during the rice which was supplied after the recent cyclone, the Amphan cyclone, when even the rice was being sold in the black market, with the rice meant for relief was being sold in the open market. So now, in a situation like this, Mamata Banerjee has come up with yet another thing, which is the issue of Bengal pride. Bengal will not be ruled from Gujarat, is her new slogan. Anybody, it's often asked, some of the most rabid of their supporters go and say, if you're a Bengali living in Bangalore, you have no right to talk. If you're a person living in Bombay, you have no right to talk. If you're in Delhi, you have no right to talk. Only we have the right to talk. You are Nakli Bengali. Amra Sochcha Bengali. And that we have a greater affinity, they claim, with Bangladesh than we have with India. We are seeing the seeds of a form of secessionism which is taking root in Bengal. So the challenges before us in the coming days is daunting. At this time, what is necessary is, first, a enormous degree of solidarity which unites all Bengalis, whether they're living in Bengaluru, whether they're living in Mumbai, whether they're living overseas, wherever they may be, and link them once again to the people of Bengal to ensure that they get that this sort of movement for change, which is in the offing, gets a further rise in momentum. It's also necessary at this point to have a certain notion of what an alternative will be. It's not merely possible, it's not merely desirable to merely say that we hate this government, we will do a better job. People legitimately ask, what better job will you do? After all, Mamata Banerjee came to power saying we will provide a change from the misrule of Poribarton, from the misrule of the left front, and see what she did. So there have been a whole litany of false promises which have been there, and to that there must be. But the most important point which I want to stress here is that we can debate various things about what are possible things, what are the possible plans you can have for Bengal, what are this, what sort of proposals, what sort of investments are potentially possible. But at the end of the day, you've got to realize one thing, that every single proposal, every single investment decision, every single plan to uplift Bengal falters on one count, because the environment there is so vitiated, which is so vitiated that it is not possible for people to function. Until you can actually get a certain environment of peace, of certain social stability, of certain respite from this sort of petty corruption which is there, and have people with a degree of integrity and commitment, you're not even going to begin the process of transformation. I'll just switch to Bangla a little bit. তাই আমি বলছি যে এখন শুধু যে আমরা এই সরকারের বিরুদ্ধে লড়তে চাই সেটা বললে যথেষ্ট হবে না, আমাদের একটা বিকল্প রাস্তা দেখাতেই হবে। এই বিকল্প রাস্তা কি? আমাদের কেন যোগ্যতা আছে পশ্চিমবঙ্গে আমরা ঠিকমতো একটা সুশাসন দিতে পারি, এটা আমাদের দেখাতে হবে। এই জন্যে আমাদের কাছে প্রবাসী বাঙালিদের কাছে একটা আবেদন, তাদের অনেক যোগ্যতা আছে, তারা অনেক সাফল্যতা করেছে তাদের নিজেদের জীবনে, তারা আসুন আজকে যখন 2021 সালে যখন ইলেকশন হবে তখন আমি চাই যে তারা এসে তাদের যে কোনো জায়গায় তাদের বাড়ির যে পুরনো বাড়ি টাড়ি যেগুলো আছে সেখানে এসে যান, এসে লোকজনকে কথা বলুন, যেটা সম্ভব ভারতবর্ষে, এটা সম্ভব। যা পশ্চিমবঙ্গে আজকে হতে দিচ্ছে না এটা ভারতবর্ষের অন্য জায়গায় করছে। তারা কেন করছে? কি ধরনের একটা পরিবেশে তারা আছে? এবং এইটা করলে খুবই, I just want to remind everybody, just as a last sort of anecdote before I wind up to the question answer session, is that one of the tragedies which you see in Bengal, in middle class Calcutta, is the sight of so many elderly people living by themselves. For why? Because either their sons or their daughters have all gone out of the state. You see this, so if you look at the demographic profile of Kolkata, you'll find that it has the average age of Kolkata is the highest anywhere in the country. It has been reduced to an old age retirement home. And that's sad. But that tells you the story of what exactly this once vibrant state, which was once the number 2, which till 1911 boasted the capital of India, today has sunk to a position which is pitiable and we can only shed tears for it. But if we want to recover from it, we need that determination. We need that presence of mind. We need that commitment. And we need that nationalism. Nationalism as we know it, the concept of Bharat Mata, which you are celebrating today, it emerged as a result of Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's Vande Mataram, where he invoked the mother goddess. And it was popularized by Sri Aurobindo. And that was how Mother India, Bharat Mata as we know it, the iconography of Bharat Mata as we know it, was evolved. It was evolved from the soil of Bengal. And today, the last time I went to speak at a particular place on my book on Awakening Bharat Mata, I was told, this is a patriarchal concept, this is a Brahminical concept. We will not allow a speech on this to be delivered in Calcutta. The wheel has come a full circle. I want it to come the one more time and recover our true inheritance in Bengal. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'll be happy to respond to your questions.
Awesome, Swapanda, but the tragedy, spiritual leadership, which has come to Bharat Mata, has deteriorated to the catastrophical level at this point in time in West Bengal, and we are mute witnesses, other than doing this linking activity and motivating youngsters to join into this campaign. We probably will not be able to do more sitting here in Bengaluru, but we see, as you said, the labor class, the cheaper class, or the working class is here doing their living and trying to be away from West Bengal. And I believe you are the new hope, this generation of people who are striving your way to bring a political renaissance and thus leading to a cultural and the spiritual renaissance of West Bengal. We are hopeful. We are hopeful it will happen because we are only here to do the prayers and our job. So all your words, what you have said, you and Gautam Sen ji, what you mentioned has been just pricking us. It's pricking our conscience. But let's go ahead and see how our rest of the participants would like to view this session and would like to contribute. I now request Himati Bhai to handle the question and answer session along with the Kanchanda. With you, Himati Bhaiya and Kanchanji, please handle it. Thank you so much.
Having two types of question. One question already we have received. This question has come through email ID, and we will be going for those questions first. And those who are from overseas, I think Kanchanda, you just take care of those questions. Please ask them to unmute them. Those who are in this lobby, please unmute and ask your question. Tell your name and you are from where. And after that, please mute. And one more request: there is no follow-up question. Whatever our panelist dignitaries will answer, you just take it up. After that, if you are not satisfied, if you are having any follow-up question, but for the respect of time, please do not go and ask again question. Let other questions to come. If you have any doubts and all, you can send me the email in our email ID. So what we will do, we will send it to Swapan or Gautam da. They will definitely respond back to you for your further follow-up question. This is one rule. Point number one, second one is that so many people are watching this session over social media's link. Around 48 links are there across the globe. So for them, we have already shared one email ID. Once again, I am just sharing that email ID. You have been already, many people because we have been following this particular pattern. You have been sending that WhatsApp questions after hearing Swapanda and Gautam. So we'll just scan, and whatever the questions are very much relevant, and we'll be asking those questions. But first, we'll be giving preference. Those questions already we have got, and another preference from our side to overseas people, those who has joined, they are not able to see Swapanda or Gautam very frequently. So we'll be giving preference to them. Over to you, Kanchana. You please anchor the overseas questions. After that, we'll come back to the India. And
Thank you, Madri. And I really, we must applaud very frank and candid thoughts that Sapanda and Gautamda has shared. And there are, we gave them little time to speak, but we hope that from this question answer discussion, a lot more will come out. And I'll start with the questions. I mean, actually, there are people from 12 countries, and unfortunately, we cannot accommodate everybody in this short time. But we will, whoever we have received first, we will go by the order, and let's see how far we can go. So, the last state budget sectors such as agriculture was 60%, irrigation, flood control, all the statistics that have been given it saw the highest increase in allocations. On the other hand, allocations to sectors such as transport, social welfare, nutrition, and police saw that highest decrease. So, question is asked by Devotos from Washington D.C. Please, Devotos, unmute yourself and ask the question to Sapanda. Devotos.
Hi, thank you everyone for joining, and thank you, Dr. Swapan Dasgupta, for your nice speech and explaining everything. And so I was wondering that, so now for Dr. Swapan Dasgupta, so the state budget allocation, has increased for agriculture, irrigation, and flood control, and SC, ST, and OBC minorities. But the budget allocation has decreased for transportation, social welfare, nutrition, and police department. So hoping that the BJP will come to power in West Bengal. So do you think that more stress should be given to manufacturing sector and infrastructure, IT, and also road construction, transportation, these areas?
Well, that's a very good question about, where do you give a priority to? I think one of the first important thing is to build, as I said, the first important thing is to create the environment, which is to look at the law and order situation, to stop this petty extortion which is going on at every single thing, which raises the cost of business, but creates an inhospitable climate for any form of investment. But more than that, equally, I think the upgradation and the creation of infrastructure is necessary. Yesterday, I was at a meeting of people from North Bengal, and the MP from Kuch Bihar, who's a colleague of mine, he explained that it takes 22 hours at the very minimum to get from Kolkata to Kuch Bihar. That's unacceptable. That's completely unacceptable. Do you know that we have had an Udan scheme, something called a Udan scheme, which the government of India has promoted to have air links, cheaper air links for smaller towns. Apart from Calcutta and Bagdogra, who have big airports, there are airports in Durgapur, there's an airport in Balurghat, there's an airport in Malda, and there's an airport in Kuch Bihar. Now, in these airports, the state government has been entrusted with the idea of providing an elementary level of security. The state government does not want to give that security. So these airports are lying empty, without any use. The Delhi-Kolkata link highway, national highway, the last 10 kilometers are remaining undone. A link from Dankuni, which links Haldia, to Dankuni, which is supposed to have a big inland port, a freight container port, container depot, is not being given because the state government hasn't given land. So at every stage, there are infrastructural deficiencies everywhere. Now you're talking about manufacturing. At one time, what we are seeing in Bengal is a very interesting phenomena. Whereas other states are actually attracting manufacturing in places where they didn't have. In Bengal, you've actually seen a process of deindustrialization. The closure of industries which existed. At once upon a time, the entire belt around Calcutta on the other side of the Hooghly used to be full of light engineering. Now that's a rust belt now. Most of the jute mills are shut. Despite the fact that once again, jute has got a big fillip as being the obligatory packaging for all rice and wheat. So as far as new industries are concerned, you have a great infrastructure in the outskirts of Calcutta, what is called New Town, Salt Lake, that sort of area, which was meant for IT parks, etc. But you only get branch offices, or you get the lowest end of the value chain of the IT sector. Again, why? It's not because the qualified people are not there. It's because the environment does not exist in which people can be attracted to Calcutta. So you create the environment and you'll see that gradually investment will start coming back. And finally, there's a big important thing. All around Greater Calcutta, you find littered with closed factories. I recently went last year to a place called Hind Motors. That was the center of where the Ambassador cow used to be produced. It was once upon a time the biggest automobile factory in the whole of Asia. Today, it's completely a derelict establishment. So the land is there. It is tied up in all sorts of things. So here you need a positive approach from the government of how do you free these frozen national assets. Land is an asset. It's a national resource. And particularly in a fertile place like Bengal, where people are loath to give up agricultural land. So these are tasks which you've got to attend to systematically. But at the end of the day, first thing is create that environment.
Can I just add one point to what Swapan has said? I broadly agree with pretty much everything he has said. Can I proceed?
Please, please.
Yes, sir.
One of the biggest problems of West Bengal going back to the 60s was an enormous amount of time and effort spent fighting with the center. And if you read some of the literature of the successes of other states, in fact, a very important book which came out in 2005 examined this in detail. Those states which navigated and negotiated better with the center, particularly Gujarat to start with, and then Tamil Nadu, which also started out like Bengal, wanting to fight with the state, quickly learned. Now, we haven't, after all these years, learned that we need a cooperative relationship. The center is not the enemy. Now, the point which Swapan has made, which I absolutely emphasize, is you must create a climate in which investment will come. What the government showed is going to be very limited in the years to come. The government should only be involved in essential areas like health, education, infrastructure, road building, but the rest is to create an environment in which Atmanirbhar, private enterprise can flourish. This is happening across India now, in many other states, even in UP, which used to be a laggard. This has not sunk in. These people are very political animals. They are very concerned with the fate of their own political party above all. That comes before the state. This is the problem. And we must now move in a different direction. And I really rather like the suggestion somebody made of Bengal being a hub for a large part of Asia. I know the problem of Hooghly dredging and tides is key, but we must try innovative new ways to make Bengal a major area. I have very vivid recollections of what Swapan just described about the industry fleeing Calcutta, because I was one of those. That closure of Westinghouse, Saxby Pharma, and nationalization by Jyoti Babu in 1969. It used to have 7,500 employees, and it used to manufacture all the brakes and signals for entire Indian railways. Where has all this gone? We need a change in mindset, and for that we need a new political party. I'm really very sorry. Only BJP, with inspiration Narendra Modi, has provided across India now. is the one way in which change can come. The only optimistic thing, I believe this can happen quite quickly. I think within 7-8 years, you would see a huge turnaround. And final point, future growth in India, West Bengal, everywhere in the world will be dominated by quality human capital. And quality human capital, I don't see. I go to Calcutta clubs. Calcutta club itself, everybody is above 75. All the young are out of Calcutta. All the young, well-educated. I was sitting in a cafe, and three bright young girls were having a conversation. I was very curious. I was listening. They were on presidency. They all got very good English degrees. And all they could talk about was how quickly they were going to go abroad. Now, I was happy for them, but disheartened for Bengal. That more than 70% of Bangalore IT is from Calcutta. Individual employees. They have all fled. We've got to bring them back by creating a friendly atmosphere, not this gunda gaddi. I remember one time I was walking near Gokhale Road, which is again near Calcutta Club, and I was walking past somewhere, and my friend said, "Keep quiet." I said, "Why?" He said, "Those boys sitting outside this big house are all TMC. If they overhear you, you've had it." I was astonished. Thank you.
Yeah, next one, please, Kanchandra.
Speaking is that just please ask the question. I'll give the context and you ask the question. And also, because of so many questions are there, probably 60 questions already there. So I request also Swapan and Gautam to make it more brief if possible, so that more questions can be addressed. So the next question I have is from Canada, Alberta, Canada. Dr. Rudra Prashanna Banerjee, he's doing research there. Rudra, you are there? He has a question relating to agriculture and the farmer bill. Rudra.
Kanchandra, you please read out actually for the.
Okay, so this question is for both Sapanda and Gautamda. How do you see implementation of modern agricultural processes will increase in Bengal? And also, what is your perception about the farmer bill that just passed? And how this is going to help the farmers in West Bengal?
One of the features about this farmers bill is that West Bengal, you have very small and parcelized strips of land. Big land holdings have ceased to exist in West Bengal. Mm-hmm. Most people cannot even make the subsistence living from agriculture. They need external living. So the important thing, as far as agriculture is concerned, is to raise value, to have value addition in various spheres, whether it's through agro industries, whether it's through organic farming, whether it's through specialized indigenous varieties, which will have a high marketing. In this context, marketing is a very important thing. This farmers bill allows choice. And this choice is very important because it gets you out of the stranglehold of those who act as middlemen and whose existence as middlemen is dependent on their political clout. That you're forced to sell within a district, that you're forced to sell within FCI, if you're forced to sell to NABARD, whatever the particular crop might be. This opening up, if it genuinely allows an opening up and allows more people to come in, you will see a situation where the farmer gets a little more lucrative returns. And second point is, with the coming in, with the opening, with creating the legal framework whereby go downs and cold storages and all that can exist without the threat of so-called hoarding with the ESMA used to have. That opening up of agriculture and agricultural produce today, I think, has the potential in Bengal to create a degree of competitiveness, raise prices, raise remunerative prices for farmers, and lead to the growth of smaller agro industries there. But again, I come back to the same point, you have to create an environment for it.
I will just quickly add, I share pretty much what Swapan has just said. I pretty much share what he's been saying. I would just say, the key difficult issue is the very small size of holdings. And for this, actually, in the end, the solution is corporatization, where people have a share certificate for their land, but it's aggregated to larger holdings. And therefore, a very large number of people will have to find employment outside agriculture in order to make a better living. There is no other way out of it. And this is going to be run by Atmanirbhar. But this will take a bit of time. Agriculture has three elements: inputs, production, and marketing. And Swapan has very correctly mentioned the marketing part, storage, etc. All of this is happening in India. You will see how much of that is going to be happening in UP, for example. It will happen in Bengal too. And input issues are more straightforward once you decide the cropping pattern. But really, in the end, in Bengal, for the farming community to have a better life, already many of them work outside farming, is for manufacturing to grow. So you soak up this, and there are fewer people being supported by agriculture, so they'll have higher average incomes. But this will not be solved quickly. And as for the farm bill, this is like GST. It was overdue. It was nothing to do with just BJP and Narendra Modi. It has been discussed to death for a very long time. And now the government has shown the courage. Of course, people are upset. There are people who made a very good living in Maharashtra and Punjab out of this racket. And that is going to go. It should be applauded. I'm so happy. And all the experts agree, in private at least. Hardly anybody I speak to says this is a bad idea. So thank you.
Thank you, Gautam. From farm to industry, our friend from UAE in Dubai, Sudarshan Goswami, he has questions related to industries and labor. Sudarshan, please.
One request to everybody. I believe that you have all got that questions and the serial number also. So as Kanchanda will be telling the name, for the sake of time, actually, please be ready and you unmute and ask the question very fast. Okay, because there are so many questions are there for India also. And already I have got around 67 WhatsApp message. So definitely we have to take some questions from here also. Okay.
And brief. This is be brief. Don't need to elaborate. Just ask the question, please.
Yeah, please.
Okay, here I go. I'm Surasan from Dubai. So the question is to Shopanda. But before I'll just take 5 seconds to mention that the Shopanda, I have got very fond memories of you, and I had been following you right from the day you had been debating with Manish Shankar Iyer for the long time, and we used to watch you especially for your impeccable English, your command about the vocabulary. So it was nice to see you back in action, and especially now in the Rajya Sabha. Now my question here it is that Bengal, as you have already mentioned, that Bengal has been a powerhouse of industry, and along the banks of Ganges, what we have seen is, if you go on that side, the entire belt is to be lit up with industry and Hind Motors and the likes. Now the thing is, I would like to imagine that BJP would storm back to, would come to power in Bengal in 2021. And having said that, how do you think BJP can create a conducive atmosphere for the people to create an atmosphere for investment in terms of industry? And how do you think that change will come, and how long it could take?
Well, a couple of things. I mean, the first, as I go back to what Gautam says, it's no longer a question of the state investing for industry. It's a question of how do you create an environment whereby private capital can actually invest. To start off with, how many more SMEs can you get off the ground? How many more? And if SMEs in turn lead to a situation, the experience of SMEs has a good knock-on effect on larger industrial development. Now, the point here is infrastructure. I mentioned in answer to the first question is obviously a priority. Number two, government facilitation is there in terms of clearing some nominal hurdles. I'm not even saying anything more. Some nominal hurdles has to be there. But more than that, you need a supportive government. You need them to say, hey, come on, hand-holding, come on, which is what UP is doing, which is what Gujarat does all the time. It's no rocket science. Every state in this country is involved in attracting investors to come and saying, this is what we can offer you, this is what we come, please come, except West Bengal. It's that change in that mindset which you have. Give them that. And therefore, all I'm saying is at present is that be supportive, invest in infrastructure. I'm sure, make sure that the law and order is okay. And then you will find that the natural logistical advantages of Bengal, which enabled industry to come in the first place, will again manifest itself. I don't know,
Yes.
Gautam may have a different.
No, I don't know. I'm actually on the same page as you, Swapan. Just to emphasize something you already said, and I've also said. When Nitish Kumar went to Nepal, the Prime Minister asked him, "What is your secret?" Because Nitish Kumar in the first 4 years raised the growth rate of Bihar to 11.4% per year, and his reply was law and order, law and order, law and order. This is what I'm emphasizing. A lot of the gains from a BJP government will come within 6-8 months. See, once you solve the law and order problem, once you solve that, you will see how it changes. I also, have come to learn, perhaps in my old age, that Indians are a very entrepreneurial people. You create the facilities, as Swapan and I have been saying, you create the circumstances, many people will come. There are other things which takes a little bit more effort. For example, quality state-private partnership in vocational education, because there has to be a lot of adaptation. You see, digitization is going to rocket in India. The government wants 20% of GDP from digitization. Bengal is well placed for that. But for that to happen, people will lose jobs and they'll have to retrain and redeploy. There are some things where the government and the private sector will work together. But you need the goodwill and the attitude that you want to do this. If you are mainly in power of politics and everything else is a secondary issue, that will not work. And a BJP-led government really is committed. I am absolutely sure Swapan, Tathagato, all of the people I know are deeply committed to this. Again, I say it will be done very much faster than people think.
Thank you, Gautam. Thank you, Swapan. Amitabh Mittal in Chicago, can you please ask your question?
Humble to be in your presence here like this. Thank you, Kanchanda and Hemedra for giving this opportunity. I see that how do you change the narrative that socialism and communism is the way? Because wherever it is, it brings the poverty, it brings denigration of humanity itself. So how do we get that to the masses to understand? I'll just give you a simple example and I'll end my thought there. I was speaking to a Mexican person and she said the same thing I've heard over and over again, say, people in Bengal, Bihar, they're just lazy. And she said the same thing, people in Mexico and her village are lazy. And my response to that was, no, they're not lazy. No human being is lazy. It's just they're not given the opportunity. The government tells you, I'll take care of you. When somebody is taking care of you, you don't do anything. And that's what is happening to places wherever this ideology is. How do you counter this ideology, which puts us in, dire situation everywhere where it is? That is the core of the problem anywhere, that it brings violence with it, it brings oppression of humanity with it. So how do you counter that, sir? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's a nice question. I think the answer to that is that firstly, I have to admit that there is a certain innate comfort level which people have of ensuring that the state takes care of them. There's a certain comfort level which people have. To get out of that comfort level, you have to basically ensure that there are greater advantages of working rather than being given handouts. That the advantages come even more. And I think as long as that is there, today I think one of the reasons why there is a lot of corruption, petty corruption particularly in West Bengal, extortion, is that the economy is not growing. There is nothing to take. So what do? Crime becomes a form of enterprise. Politics becomes a form of enterprise. It's only when the alternatives start manifesting themselves, and with a little bit of hardness from the state, a little bit of decisive action from the state, that you can get this. I think the alternatives to this form of statism, to this form of socialism, which is there, is of course a bit difficult, and it's a very daunting. It's not something which is going to happen overnight, because the instinctive response of everybody is, let's look at the state to bail us out into anything. Now, that's always been the response, instinctive response. And if you say something else, it's not a very popular response. So, but you've got to bang your head again and go on and say it. And I think this farmer bill is a classic example where you have to say that the risks are worth taking, that the creation of a market economy in agriculture is much better than this pampered food corporation type business which we've operated with, which has led to the stagnation in agriculture for the past 50 years. Gautam can probably add to that.
Yeah, Gautam Dasgupta.
We've, I think, gone past the era of socialism everywhere. And even now, there are people in JNU, professors who are talking about China as an example. So you have to laugh. This is all not a serious argument anymore. It is over. And West Bengal, so socialism has only brought poverty and misery. And I'm very sorry to say, poverty and misery has driven many young Bengalis to do things which are shameful. I've seen them in the bars in Bombay. I've seen them in hotel bars in Calcutta. I'm very sorry. This is over now. We need to restore dignity and initiative and self-reliance. It'll happen. We have to learn from these Gujaratis that Mamata fears so much. We have to learn from them. But it is there. It is changing. And really, we just need to change political dispensation. This business of political parties there by using muscle and eating the state's funds. This is how it works in Bengal. It has done so from about 1966, 67. It is over. It is over.
Thank you. I'll take only 4 questions. We don't have much time left. So very quickly ask the question and then please do respond very briefly, please. Deval Gupta from New Jersey is one of the co-founders of the Bangla Aabar group, which has presence in about 15 countries now. Bengali lovers are joining. So Deval, please ask your question on crime and violence that already Sapanda just touched a few seconds ago. Deval.
Thank you. This is Debal Gupta. Really appreciate everyone to join this excellent question and answer as well as the thought-provoking leadership. My question is very simple to Dr. Swapan Dasgupta, that there is a horrendous crimes and violence and rape, murders, destructions are going on in Bengal right now. So what is your way to think about how we can do the less crime and make the culture much more better?
Well, I don't know about make the culture better part, I'll leave that out. But talking about crime, I think there are 2 things. One is zero tolerance, that you have to create the police force which is actually completely fair and scrupulous in its investigative methods. Today in Bengal, one of the biggest problems which we faced is not merely that political crimes are unpunished, but that crimes committed by a particular community is also condoned. So you have 2 things. You have both politicization and you have communalization. And that has created a huge problem in this state. I hope that a firm administration, which Gautam spoke about the Nitish Kumar example of how Yogi has done in Uttar Pradesh. These are some examples of how Modi did when he was in charge of Gujarat. These are the examples before us, and I think we need to emulate that.
Thank you. And the last question I have is from Chandramohan Nayak. I'm not sure where you're from. So you were talking about, and Tito Nondi from New York. I'm combining the 2 questions. So one is economy is West Bengal 6th largest that government claims, Mamata government claims. And what do you see going beyond 2021? And Chandra, you are there. You please ask.
Yeah, Chandra is from SFO. Chandra is from SFO. Over to you, Chandra.
Please speak.
Dhanyavad Kanchanji and Namaste Swapanji. I'm Chandra. I'm from San Francisco Bay Area, primarily from Bangalore, but now living here. It's my pleasure to be here and listen to your words. The question I had was primarily economic related, but I think given what I heard, I see there are not much hopes. I was wondering, TMC government was claiming 7 to 8% GDP growth pre-pandemic. where do you see this is going after pandemic? And also another observation that I had was like West Bengal is considered as the land of spirituality. From the times of Mahabharata, it was ruled by Karna, and then other sources of inspiration like Swami Vivekananda. I'm part of Shaka here. Every week we talk about Swami Vivekananda or Aurobindo. Can Bengalis actually invoke the whole of Bharat to join in this campaign to restore the pride of Bengal and bring it back from where it is?
I just quickly respond to the question of the economy. This claim that Bengal is the sixth largest, this is again deception. Bengal's per capita income places it at number 20. Size of GDP itself is not very meaningful because that depends on population size, you see. So of course Bengal's GDP is 6. In fact, it used to be number 2. It used to vie with Maharashtra, so it is actually falling down. But per capita terms, Bengal is number 20. It is absolutely at the bottom, nearly at the bottom. So nothing to be proud of. So I don't take all this data that Mr. Amit Mitra and his boss are putting out. There's not much to add. You see, we need a change of government for things to move forward. I have a great desire to be a kind of cultural renewal, some of which will require state sponsorship. For me, personal favorite has always been this truly great man who should be an example for all of humanity, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. We should have a celebration of his great moral integrity that he brought. And there are others, and we can do this. This has been systematically pushed aside. A few weeks ago, somebody sent me a tweet, and I was completely speechless. A young woman, graduate from one of the major institutions, was abusing Lord Ram with filthy sexual epithets for being sexist. And I thought, you can't educate these people. They have to be socialized. Because, the reasons she gave are completely illogical. For example, the whole idea of feminism is a modern idea. This does not exist, first of all. So you cannot have a counterfactual using a modern concept to explain something which happened 3,500 years ago. Nobody does that in the world. And secondly, there's a category error. When you say Ram, Sita, category error, they are not two separate beings. Ram and Sita are not two separate beings. So you cannot apply simplistic, idiotic, contingent, contemporary modes of thought. But this just shows the hatred. And I must say, all of this angst and rage I'm seeing, and I see it in England. I've debated with people from Oxford, LSE, about CAA. It's very simple. They often don't care about CAA, and they don't know. Even this Oxford professor with whom I debated on BBC didn't really understand. She should have just seen a 5-minute tape from Harish Salve, which everything was explained beautifully. They have an unreasonable, irrational hatred for Narendra Modi. That is it. And their view is, if in order to get to Narendra Modi, we destroy India, fine. If India suffers a nuclear attack from Pakistan, that's also fine. This is the problem. They have a blind hatred, and I'm afraid there's nothing more left to discuss with them, because I am not a great believing person, but if there is Ishwar, as the Russian novel says, such a man was required, and he arrived. That is Narendra Modi. Thank you.
Thank you, Gautam. I just wanted to add, since you mentioned Ram Sita, actually most of India it says Siya Ram or Sita Ram. Sita's name comes first. So I think all these so-called feminism movements, they forget this. So I have to close actually. Oh my God. Several questions came. We have very little time. So
Kanchanda, you do one thing. Kanchanda, you take the last question from US. After that, here piling of questions actually. So that question you take, then we'll come back to India. Okay.
Please,
That question is.
apologies for delays, Swapanda and Gautam. I hope you don't have an appointment right after this. So maybe bear with us. And I know so many people would like to talk to you, discuss with you. So this question I'm summarizing. Several people asked this question. I'm summarizing
exactly
from Australia, from Italy, Bipul, and then another person from US. So the summary is this: that India, civilizationally, the greater India, the Akhand Bharat, we have lost Kandahar, Sindh, Balochistan, and now eastern part of Bengal. We have lost all this between 96 and 71 and beyond. when Raja Dahir was defeated, and all this history is knocking at the door of Bengal today. How do you think current model of Indian constituency can stop the demographical change of India and more specifically Bengal and the rise of Islamism and fanaticism, religious fanaticism? How democracy is going to? Is democracy is the only solution? Is Indian constitution is in a position to actually deal with this? So this is question for both of you, Swapanda and Gautam.
Yeah, I'll just add actually, because this question we have summarized from 61 questions. So the thing is that, so all the peoples are very eager to listen to you people, this point of view. Because what they are telling that they have given certain data. They are telling that currently, if you see that 8 to 13 years children's in West Bengal, it is something like that. They are from the so-called jihadi groups in terms of those who has actually conquered us, destroyed, done that all these genocides in all over, not only in Bengal. Previously, also they have done this one, and even we have seen in 71 and 46 in the Greater Bengal. So
Yeah.
their question is that it is not only that conversion or something XYZ. If they are not at all doing any love jihad or something like that, still actually by automatically it will be going to their population 30 plus after 5 years, maybe 40%. Then you will not have any hope rather than to Bengal become a Afghanistan or Kashmir. So how, if you are coming to the power, really how you are going to address these things with the current state of our Indian constituency?
Yes, and just to add a actual latest what Himadri was trying to quote from a statistics that today in Bengal, the population percentage of ages between 2 and 9 is actually 20%, whereas Hindus it is 9%. So think about this: 10 years later, in 2031, the electorates, the voters, will increase by 20% on one side and 9% on the other side. Already, as you know, the number of voters, it's close to 28%. So it will become 38% or 40% at least. Now they will decide who should be their leader, who should be ruling Bengal. So that's the time bomb we're sitting on. I think Himadi was alluding to that. So please.
Yeah, I'll just give you some very brief answers. In the past, in the 2019 elections, according to surveys which have been conducted, something like 55 to 58% of the Hindus voted for the BJP, whereas something like over 75% of Muslims voted for Mamata Banerjee. Mamata Banerjee won 22 seats, the BJP won 18 seats, and 2 seats were won by the Congress. Now, the point is, Mamata Banerjee today depends substantially on about 30% assured votes. Assured votes. And she says, if I can get another 10% or 10 to 12% of the ordinary Hindu votes, then I can sail through comfortably. No one can even touch me. And a lot of her arrogance and complacency is based on this. Bengal is witnessing a profound demographic transformation. I think if you look at the census figures, you'll know. And if you look at it disaggregated further, you'll see that at least vast parts of Bengal today bear no relation to the Bengal as we know it. And this is mainly happening in the border districts. We saw some evidence of the strategic threats that this can cause when all for about 2 days, what is called the chicken's neck was almost cut off from the rest of India. So the danger is there. I think in the short term, what is necessary is we need a stupendous amount. We need a phenomenal amount of Hindu consolidation. Let me just put it very, very bluntly. Unless the Hindus unite, Bengal is gone. West Bengal will become an extension of Bangladesh. This is an inescapable reality which has to stare people in the face, and which unfortunately a lot of my secular minded friends are unwilling to see. And that what we are seeing also in large parts of West Bengal is the growth of a certain jihadi impulse type of Islamism, political Islamism, which today might be actually a little passive, but tomorrow will get far more aggressive as the days come by. And it's only a matter of time. I expect that during this election, there will be a demand from the Muslim community that we must have our own deputy chief minister. I believe this is a demand which is likely to come up from within the thing. Now, this is only the beginning. Where it will go, that the belief that they have a veto, that the Muslims have a veto over political future of West Bengal, it has gradually gotten. Now, unless there is a response from the Hindus and form of Hindu consolidation, which is why I find this attempt by Mamata Banerjee to create a divide between Bangla speaking people and Hindi speaking people to be such a great diversion.
Yes.
It is an attempt to divide the Hindu community of West Bengal. And a divided Hindu community will never be able to stand up against these emerging threats. This is what I want to say for the moment. Being in politics, I have to restrain myself after a point.
I am
That's the reality, Gautam da.
I am a bit surprised by Swapan's frankness, and I agree with what he has said. I'll be even more brutal since he has opened the door for me. First of all, the short term, we need NRC. Pakistan has NRC, Bangladesh has NRC, most countries have NRC, because without NRC, you cannot even budget. You need to know what the population, and then to impose the consequence of NRC ruthlessly. Many of the protesters near Shaheen actually are Bangladeshis and some Rohingyas. So NRC is a prerequisite, first thing. Secondly, in the long term, there will be Gaur Wapasi. I'm becoming more and more optimistic looking at what's happening in Iran and elsewhere. Gaur Wapasi will be a phenomenon. And thirdly, I already think the Muslims have agreed. Durga Puja Visarjan was stopped. Unthinkable. It was stopped by Mamata Banerjee. Of course, the High Court reversed that. So we have to have that. And thirdly, I've been saying for a long time, you must have very strict rules. 3 children over 2 generations in any generation, you cannot get a ration card. Adityanath has said if you have more than 2, you cannot stand for local panchayat elections. I can give you a whole list of sanctions, and if you have more than 5, your mobile phone is cut off. We are facing war. And let me tell you, the Pakistanis have very few things to worry about, and India is their number 1 priority. I know for a fact from reliable sources that many Biharis who are moving to Bengal are being paid to buy property in Bengal. They are the most belligerent, not the illegals from Bangladesh who are pulling rickshaws. The most belligerent are the ones who are there legally. But some of them also the Razakars who are not allowed to go to Pakistan, kept in camps, they're all in Calcutta now. So our leftist Mamata racket must be completely destroyed. We have to do this on a war footing. A tiny example is an illustration of what happened in my own experience, and Swapan will be familiar because we grew up in the same part of Calcutta. In Old Baliganj second lane, which is just behind Baliganj Padi, in the 60s there was one Muslim family whose house was burnt down in the riots, 63 riots. Local Hindus got together and rebuilt their house. There are not only 2 Hindu families in that street. And 5 years ago, you could not come out on Friday during Namaz because they blocked the street. You couldn't come out of your house. We already have Sharia in West Bengal. We must reverse it, and we need specific policies. Talking is over. Talking is over. And Adityanath has made a start. He's given a green signal. We need to be a little bit more specific and more detailed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gautam da and Swapan da, for your candid answer. We do not have vicious wish against our Muslim brothers and sisters, but we are against any type of fundamentalism, Islamism, political Islamism, and jihad. And that's what we were addressing earlier. So thank you both, and I'll hand it over to Himadri. Can you please take over from?
Yeah. Because air condition is very vast, so
But I have also got to go. You see,
Yeah, Swapan, if you are sparing some 10 minutes, because few critical questions are there, particularly from the Bangalore. So just you have to ask. I'll quickly ask Taposh. Can you please ask your question quickly, and then we'll go for two more questions. Actually, over to you, Taposh.
Yes, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah. Go ahead quickly.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Taposh Pal. I'm from Bangalore. My question is to Professor Gautam Sen. Sir, Bengal has public debt over 5 lakh crore rupees. Carrying forward these backlogs, how do you think that development of the state is possible, or who is the upcoming government who can take it easily as a development kind of thing? Thank you.
I'm afraid this is a very difficult issue, and deficit actually is worsening year by year, and some of the enlargement of the budget has come from central grants. There is no easy solution. If there's a change of government, and the Bengali should listen to this, if there's a change of government, there may be some degree of write-off to make Bengal viable. There is no other way out. Some of it will have to be written off, which will upset all the other states. Why should they keep subsidizing Bengal? But some write-off will be unavoidable, and if there is a BJP government, this will happen. In fact, there is an example of this when General Jacob became the governor of Goa. Short period, it became immensely popular. One of the first things he did, because he was nominated with the BJP, was negotiate with the center on their big deficit and their loans from the center. He got better interest rates, and some of it was forgiven. Bengal will have to go cap in hand for some of this, but only if the change of government and they have changed course and the budget is not being looted. In the current circumstances, why should the rest of India subsidize Bengal?
Gautam, your audio is off. Please turn it on.
No, my muting is off.
No, it's all right. It was audible here. So I think that what we understood, that there is no way out actually. Now next question, Jaipal Gopal, can you please ask quickly? After that, there is a very big questions that is waiting for Swapan particularly.
Yeah, hello, my name is Jaipal Gopalan. I work for an Indian MNC here in Bangalore. So my questions for Professor Gautam Sen. I remember the budget speech of the West Bengal Finance Minister had all good things to say about the central government in terms of the problems of job loss, the demonetization, GST implementation, all leading to joblessness in the state. At the same time, he goes around saying that he has created 9.3 lakh jobs in the state in 2018 and 19. Now, I don't know how authentic this number is, because we still have a large number of people in the unorganized sector, and we still are struggling to get a hang or the feel of the real unemployment situation right now in the country, right? So we see a lot of numbers being floated around. So what would you suggest we should be doing going forward, and what should be the focus of BJP? We did get a few pointers from you and Swapan on the areas to focus on going forward, but I still would like to know which sectors we should be looking at basically for improving employment opportunities in the state going forward.
There is no magic wand to be waved to change all this. I don't think that the issue of identifying sectors is a priority. I think what is a priority is to make life easier for investors, and they will decide which sectors. I think if you remove all the hindrances, and in fact, I'm involved in a very big project right now on this very question. If you remove the hindrances, West Bengal will find its own way. Now, this question of jobs, the data is very poor to start with. Not just in Bengal, but the data is actually very poor. And the finance minister is saying contradictory things. On the one hand, he says GST and demonetization kill jobs. In the other hand, he says at the same time, he created 9 lakh jobs. So these two things cannot have happened at the same time. So I don't take that very seriously. I would say the real problem, as somebody very clever advising the Prime Minister has argued a couple of years ago, actually, and I think that was a very interesting argument. Manish Sabarwal, very capable person. Our main problem in India is not just job creation, but productivity, because productivity is strongly correlated to wage growth and income growth. So that is what we should look at. I think, yes, we have already said infrastructure, other things, and climate of investment must be improved, and things can improve. It will not happen overnight, but things can happen quickly, more quickly than you think. If India achieves 8% growth for 14 years, that triples the economy. At 8% over 14 years, you triple the economy. And we were very close to 8% and the recent COVID. Now, my problem is that until the third quarter of 2022, the third quarter, all of India and much of the world will not be out of COVID. So we have some trouble ahead. This has got nothing to do with policy. Thank you.
The question actually, the thing is that this is maximum question has come from this domain. This is the IT domain, IT sector over here because we are in the IT. And this question is going directly to the Shapanda. Because Shapanda, you are already in the political field. The questions actually people are asking over here. We have just compiled this question out of 86 questions. So that question is that what is your plan if BJP is coming power? You will be one of the policymaker, may be the topmost leader also. So the thing is that last 40 years, if you see that firstly we are very backward, and whatever the culture has been developed in West Bengal, it is no way favorable for any investor to come because they are not coming to India or to any state for the charity. For charity, they are donating a lot of things in the temple and all. But the thing is that they are coming for the profit. Now the question is that even last 20, 25 years, even I am almost at 2.5 decade plus in this industry, we have seen that how IT industry has grown up in entire southern India. And I am in a very big MNC. We have seen that Chandrababu Naidu sometimes in the 200 something, 2000 something like that, how he has worked to pull the IT sectors. But if you see in West Bengal, even not only our current chief minister, even previous government also never has done anything. They have given some land and all. And I know that how IT sector works. They have put a board only. They have taken that land. Just it is the investment in the Vodafone like that. Its share price is 9 rupees. Sare kuch paisa fix ke rakho, like that. And even whenever we are dealing with the clients, if firstly that ACJ questions and all are there, so Swapanda definitely you will be knowing those kinds of things. So that I am coming. But the thing is that currently, whatever the situation, if we see that geographically, Bengal is having very, very good opportunity to make two hubs. One is in Kolkata, another is in Asansol area. Because we are in Bengal, we have seen Bangalore, we have seen that most of the people we are attracting for the northern India, either they are going to Pune or coming to Bangalore. But even Bengalis are not willing to go there because it is not the Bengalis' problem, it is our client problem. Whenever we are telling that client that okay,
I have to leave at 10.
Yes, sir. So the thing is that what is if you people are coming into the power, what will be your plan to revive that IT? Because IT driving all other industry, right from the FMCG to any other thing. So what do you, Swapanda?
I'll just give a very brief answer, which will be briefer than your question. The point is very simply this, that what are the advantages of Bengal? One is you have a skilled manpower, educated manpower, which is available. Number two, Bengal offers a respite from one of the biggest problems which is plaguing the IT industry, which is the constant turnover of personnel. You can actually keep people in Bengal, far greater. But it has one big problem, which is that so far the SEZs, which is also a very important part of the IT economy, as it were, is not encouraged or recognized in any, it hasn't been expanded in Bengal, it hasn't been extended to large sections of the IT sphere. So that's a big problem, and you've got to address all of them simultaneously. And basically, you've got to go initially, you've got to go out and actually woo people and say, okay, start with a small office, see if you can do better. So it's really like that. You've got to really woo them at present. But this SEZ problem is a very important one. And Mamata Banerjee so far has refused to give any SEZ status to a large number of IT industries. And once that is done, I believe there are two advantages, as I said, the question of trained people as well as the stability, the lack of turnover of personnel, which will come to your advantage. So hopefully that will be the thing. And lastly, it's the wholesome environment. Thank you very much. I must leave now because I have a other engagement. I have a important phone call to make at 10 o'clock exactly. It is 10 o'clock. Thank you very much. I'm sorry if I've run, quitting the program a bit prematurely, but thank you very much for
and thank you, Swapan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Shapanda, for your
Thank
time.
Thank you so much.
Extension to that question, actually, whatever the Shapanda has responded. So the question is that SEZ probably you can take the decision, but what will happen to the environment? Because our clients, whenever we are deciding that where projects will be going, they are selecting that where project to go. Even we have tried to give some projects in the Bhubaneswar, they don't select. They tell that our project will be running either in Bangalore or in Hyderabad or in Pune. So how do you think that, so for that to come to any IT or any good kinds of opportunity or project in Bengal, first that social environment should be good. So what should be the roadmap? How it can be done and how soon it can be done? Over to you, Gautam.
It's not very complicated. You are in Bangalore. In the evening, after work, you follow all the IT people to see what they do. Their life in Bangalore. Can you reproduce that life in Bengal, in Asansol? I don't think you can. These are relatively highly paid professionals, and they are in Bangalore because Bangalore offers them a package. It is not simply working in a building and then going home to sleep. So you have to look in Bangalore and other places, Hyderabad, even Chennai, to see what is it that these places offer. And I don't think Bengal offers that. Calcutta can potentially. So this is a complicated package you must recreate to attract people. And the only thing about IT is that it is easier to set up compared to industry, because industry, physical capital investment, buildings, etc., are much more complicated and more costly. IT is embodied mainly in brain power. So once you create this network, and what happens, you see, as we are discovering in Europe, when people are moving from London, financial institutions to Frankfurt and Dublin, that in the beginning it's a bit slow. Only small numbers of people are going because there'll be difficulties operating from London, so they are opening an office in Frankfurt or Dublin. In the beginning, it's a bit slow because they're waiting for a network, a bit of a community. But once that reaches a critical minimum, then it will grow very fast. Same with IT in Bengal. That once you create a small community which is vibrant, and there are small ones in Salt Lake, but it's not a good life for such people in Bengal. I've been to Bangalore recently, and I can see why Bangalore can be an exciting city. Bangalore has a big problem of congestion, and it is becoming a bit pricey for accommodation. So yes, it can be done thoughtfully, and I would employ people from Bangalore, HR managers, senior people, employ them in West Bengal so they can reproduce their experience of how they handle their staff and why their staff want to come there.
So Gautam da and
Kindly,
Swapan
sir.
da,
Kindly.
they were phenomenal today in terms of expressions, ideas, and thoughts and plans. And we all our organizations, Swadeshi Sangha and Jatipati Kolkata Bangla Aabar, সবাই আমরা এইরকম মানুষদের সঙ্গে কাজ করব. We will work with such people to see how we can develop a narrative that someone mentioned, and that is one of the main reasons for having these sessions. And Himadri, I want to announce the next week's program also, or I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a privilege to have the younger generation joining in. I have Aditi Gopinath here. Aditi, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, I can hear you, Akka.
Yeah. Please go ahead, and it's your duty to sum up the session for a vote of thanks to the stalwarts who made the sessions today so interesting. In fact, we never knew how time ran away. Kindly make it Aditi. She's a graduate, and more than that, she is a sheer nationalist with a lot of values, in her. And she is a part of Swadeshi Sangha in Bengaluru. Sriti, go ahead and do the vote of thanks.
Okay, Sarvebhyo Namo Namaha. Firstly, I would like to thank Shakuntala Akka. She's known to me as Shakku Akka with a lot of affection. She is always full of life and was acted as a Sutradhara for today's gathering. Next, Himadrida, I had the opportunity to speak to you before the program, and you were full of encouragement and kindness to me as a newcomer. And to anybody who has spoken to Himadriji, his every word is dripping with nationalism and love for the land, and I think it's seen by the way he has hosted this program. Next, Madhurima Das ji, thank you for your Madhuradhwani Madhurima di. I did not understand a lot of the words of the prayer, but as Shakku Akka said, we could all feel the Bhakti Bhava towards Bharata Mata. Thank you so much for that beautiful prayer. Kanchanda was an excellent moderator, and hearing him handle all the questions, I understand how he has been so instrumental in bringing nationalists around the world together. Now the speakers. Gautam Da, your line, "My heart has always been in the same place," really struck me. I think this is the sense of belonging that is definitely going to bring Bengal back. Your description of Bengal's current situation is heart-wrenching. To think that the state that sang of Bharat Mata, that fought for freedom now, struggles for the most basic rights of democracy is really, it's a painful thing to hear. You've made it plain that we need change in Bengali education very urgently, and there needs to be change in business, and this can only come if there is social peace and order. Next, Swapan Da is not here at the moment. Give my thanks. His concepts of one-way ticket syndrome and declinology made Bengal's current situation painfully clear to all of us. Bengalis occupy varying positions of power and influence around the world. A sense of unity with the state of Bengal is needed and will definitely bring Bengal up. Gatherings like this definitely are a step in that direction, and I thank the Sangha's forward thinking in that sense. Hearing of the dire situation of democracy in West, the fact that schemes like Ayushman Bharat are denied to Bengali citizens by the state government tells us we desperately need a Parivartan 2.0. Thank you all, especially to the speakers, for this very enlightening program. Namo Namaha, Vande Mataram.
We have to give thanks to the people whom we are not able to see, but the people around 36,000 so far I can see that from all over the globe. So 36,700 something I have got that from our professional people. They are just showing it from different channels, and it has reached to almost all the continent. So thank you so much that though you are patient, you are with us. So I think that biggest thanks to you. It should go to you people. But if you people would have not there, we would have not get any courage. Your support is the main support for our courage. But here we have allowed only few people. But most of the people, those who are seeing, watching this program and just sending that Facebook message, I just really hats off to you people. Thank you so much. I think that your wish is there. So our Bengal will come back. Aabar Bangla will come. So now we'll just start that Bande Mataram song, and we'll do it online. Online we'll do. So we'll stand up. We'll sing with this online song.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malayaj Sheetalam, Shasya Shamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram, Shubhra Jyoti शोभिनी सुहासिनी सुमधुर भाषिणी सुखदां वरदां मातरं वन्दे मातरम् कोटि कोटि कण्ठ कल कल निनाद करले कोटि कोटि भुजै धृत खर खर वाले अबला केनु मारत बोले बहुबल धारिणी नमामि तारिणी विपुदल वारिणी मातरं वन्दे मातरम् तुमि विद्या तुमि धर्म तुमि रिधि तुमि मर्म त्वं हि प्राणाः शरीरे बाहुते तुमि मा शक्ति हृदये तुमि मा भक्ति তোমারই প্রতিমা গড়ি মন্দিরে মন্দিরে वन्दे मातरम् त्वं हि दुर्गा दश प्रहरण धारिणी कमला कमलदल विहारिणी वाणी विद्यादायिनी नमामि त्वां नमामि कमला ममला अतुला सुजला सुफलां मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् श्यामलां सरलां सुस्मितां भूषितां धरणीं भरणीं मातरं वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्
भारत माता की जय।